What's going on at the BRICS Summit is kind of being held close to the vest, but I would say there are a couple of things that are sticking out to me. Everyone is talking about Project Enbridge, and certainly that is being discussed, and I'm sure we'll chat about that. But there are a couple things that I think, from a marketing standpoint, I guess you could say, it's as if they're trying to market certain information to the West. And to me, what they're trying to market to the West, they're kind of outwardly showing that they have their you-know-what together, that they're joined together in unity. And I say that we've seen, for example, the discussion of Xi Jinping and Modi today are meeting on the sideline for their first bilateral meeting since 2022. That's one thing. I think they're trying to show the world that, look, we are putting our differences aside as a group, and that gives stability. Certainly, that's something encouraging from the standpoint of growing unity and a growing group of countries. Secondly, we talk about BRICS Pay. BRICS Pay is something that is more for the individual, whereas Enbridge is more for the countries trading in commodities, as an example, and settling in what amounts to a gold-backed settlement currency. But the BRICS Pay would be more like, let's call it a monetary passport, to use Vince Lance's terminology. I agree with that. It's these people want to go into one of the other BRICS countries, and they're able to use their BRICS Pay app, whether it be a credit card or on their phone, that allows them to seamlessly transact in these countries without having to convert first and foremost, and all of the difficulty in doing so in countries where it might be difficult to exchange your currency very efficiently. So
at the BRICS Summit, big moves are quietly unfolding. And it's not just about global trade. It's about reshaping how people and countries transact. With the BRICS nations already representing a massive portion of the global population, economy, and even nuclear power, the push toward their own payment system is huge. Andy Schectman explains BRICS Pay as a monetary passport, allowing seamless transactions across BRICS nations without the hassle of currency exchange. This app will let people from any BRICS country buy, sell, or travel with a single unified payment method, backed by gold, a game changer that could shift power away from the dollar.
They're getting all their ducks in a row, all the way down to settling retail transactions with public. And I think this is one of the deals where we have to understand that I don't expect anything to come out of this meeting groundbreaking, yet it is a trend that is certainly gaining an accelerated, coordinated group of countries that are moving in the direction, I guess you could say, critical mass, a direction that will be very difficult to challenge, as is, Paul. They already represent a much larger swath of human population, of global GDP, of military might, 3 of the 4 largest nuclear arsenals, of trade routes, of commodity production, of commodity refining. It's a situation that certainly should not be underestimated, and it will be interesting when they come out with some sort of a recap, probably on Friday, of what indeed did transpire. We do know that there's at least 30 countries there that have already expressed interest, or delegates from 13 countries that have expressed interest in joining or have fully applied, on top of the other countries that are already full members. So it's an interesting growing trend that I don't think we've even begun to see what it really amounts to. That's a good question, to be honest with you. In principle, they've agreed to the unit being backed 40% by gold. But there are going to be, when it's all said and done, other items added to this basket. I'm sure Bitcoin is on their whiteboard as one of those potential items. As far as I know at this point, though, it is not a part of the unit in terms of its settlement structure. It's over time, but not at first. And that's where BRICS Pay comes into play. To my understanding, the unit token will be for central banks, commercial banks settling transactions primarily in energy. But the whole premise of Enbridge, first and foremost, is for countries to trade their central bank digital currencies, local trade with one another over a system that is not affected by SWIFT. And what this will do is incentivize these countries to keep their monetary homes and houses in order. The unit token itself says not more than 30% of any one currency will comprise the basket. So they've taken some of these things into consideration in terms of dominance, and the actual unit token itself is a fractal of the entire unit holding. So as things have to be adjusted primarily in the currencies, see, everything is a percentage as it relates to gold, and it's tied to gold. So as things have to be readjusted, they don't have to be readjusted on the actual tokens themselves, because the tokens represent a fractal of the entire unit. Will just automatically adjust. But as far as I've been told, no, at first, although it may be after, this will be a system that is designed primarily for the state and not for the individual. I don't know. I mean, they've been very tight-lipped about it. I mean, the unit has been something that has been discussed mostly in theory, and they have been tight-lipped as to how it actually rolls out. But look, I mean, I think it has to do with how much gold do you have, first and
Yeah.
foremost. And if you look at all of the countries that have been buying gold and repatriating it, the key to it, as you said, is that it is held within the borders of the countries that are producing the unit token. And this is good, obviously, for the counterparty risk element when we look at the weaponizing of the treasury. But I think when you talk about market cap, it's something that will continue to expand. The tethering, if you will, to a percentage of gold that will enable it to not be inflated away the way that the Western currencies have. When you look at the United States, we're creating $100,000 of debt per second right now,
Yeah.
24/7, a trillion every 90 days. That's something that won't happen with the unit token. And as far as the market cap, I guess I would say I don't know, but I would expect it to continue to expand. So I think it's an expanding deal where it starts out a smaller percentage of GDP, but by the end, I think it would comprise a much larger percentage if indeed this takes hold and is seen as something very legitimate that is actually challenging settlement for energy across the globe, with all of these BRICS countries. You also have the Bank of International Settlements standing behind it. And this is something that lends, I think, credibility to the question, or to the way that you phrased it. This is a Western entity as well. And, you're seeing, I think, the realization, and even if you dig deep, you'll see like names like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs who want to take part in this as well, whether it be through something like Project Agora, which is the Western answer to this. They make a very, very strong point of saying that while the US dollar and the SWIFT system at this point is not compatible with mBridge, they talk about the fact that it has tremendous adaptability, that systems should be able to integrate with the mBridge, but you'll have banks and companies that I think will adapt, that will allow for access to it, at least at the beginning. And when you see the Bank of International Settlements as part of this, it becomes fairly obvious that the West has a kind of their nose under the tent, if you will, and should have some form of connectivity with mBridge as it begins to grow and take hold. I have a hard time believing that the Federal Reserve or the BIS would integrate systems that are decentralized into what amounts to a centralized ecosystem. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people talk about XRP, because
Yes.
XRP truly isn't decentralized, and they have the ability to, reach out and grab someone if they have to, so to speak, in a crude sense of the word. But I do think that you will see a lot of these systems attempt to be integrated, and all the names on that list are that would pay reference to that. When you see all of these countries involved in mBridge, and all of these institutions involved in mBridge, Western-based institutions, there's no question there will be interoperability. The question is, what systems will they integrate? And I'm surprised that Bitcoin is on the list. I don't think it will be something that will be tied to any settlement, but I do think they understand the ability of transacting currencies and being able to purchase things like Bitcoin. I would see, quite frankly, a much higher possibility of something like XRP being involved in transacting, in being used to integrate with the mBridge or Project Agora or any of these other settlement options, a form of instant settlement, a much more efficient way of doing so, but all of it under the purview, if you will, of the BIS and of the Western system. So It's an interesting thought experiment. Don't know how it all plays out, but so many people focus on the BRICS pushing away from Western hegemony. I think it's naive to not notice the elephant in the corner of the room, and that is the BIS and all of the organizations who are signing up to participate in it as well.
Now, you know how BRICS Pay and the Enbridge project could change global transactions, but you're definitely going to need to know about the next video, where we dive into the impact this could have on the US dollar and Western markets. So don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like if you found it insightful, and leave a comment with your thoughts on where global currencies are heading. See you in the next one.